welcome to the Press Box. My name is Melissa Ponzio, and I will be your host for the next 30 minutes on Atlanta's newest sports talk show. With me is Jim Feagle and Ty Reynolds. How you doing?
Hey, I'm glad it's the weekend.
Good.
I hear you.
Good. Before we start things off tonight, we would like to extend a great congratulations to Jeff Keppen and Ryan Ritter, who were both drafted. Jeff was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds in the 27th round? 37th round. And Ryan Ritter was drafted in the 10th round for the Cleveland Indians. Tonight's special guest is Ted Wilkes, who is the director of the Softball Country Club, and now we are going to get along with this week's in sports. Let's start off with basketball. The game is tied 2 each, and tonight they play at Portland. What's going to happen?
Well, at the beginning, Jim and I both thought that this was going to go 7 games, and I just really don't see any reason for that to change. What do you think, Jim?
Maybe 6 games. I think Chicago probably should have swept this already. They've had pretty big leads going late into the game, and I think it really should have been over by now.
I tell you what, this has been an interesting series. First of all, it just seems that no one can win 2 games in a row. After the first game, which was simply a blowout, Portland came out with really a great defensive game plan and turned things more to their game. Whereas then in Game 3, after Portland went through all the trouble to steal the home court in Chicago, I mean, Chicago just comes right on into Portland, cruises in, and just takes it right back, and really slowed everything up, got themselves into a half-court game, which is what they wanted to do. And then Adelman did some different things. He changed things around in Game 4 and got a good come-from-behind win. What he did was he went to a small lineup, and for a team like Portland to go to a small lineup, this is a team that depends on rebounding. And what they did was they took out one of the forwards and replaced him with Danny Ainge, a guard. And they did not lose any rebounding. As a matter of fact, they stayed with this alignment for almost the whole fourth quarter, and they still out-rebounded the Bulls 45 to 33 for the game. So that'll be interesting to see what Chicago does to counter that.
Yeah. What do you think about the coach's position on that, Jackson's position?
Well, what Jackson's got to do is, first of all, Scottie Pippen needs to take advantage of that situation. I mean, this guy is 6'7". He's going against guys that are basically bigger than him the whole year. He has a couple of other options here. He may put in a guy like Stacey King. He may put in a player like Scott Williams to go with that. Now, if he does that, he may make a mistake because he may lose some of his quickness. And when you're talking about Portland, you're talking about a quick team, which depends on a lot of transition baskets.
Okay. We have a phone call. Hi, caller. You're on the air. What's your name and your question?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, my name is Alvin. It's my first time watching the show. But I agree with both gentlemen. I agree with what the first guy said, that it should have been over by now. Chicago's had big leads, and he just couldn't finish the game. And in Game 2, if Michael would have hit that shot at the end of regulation, I believe they would have went on and swept Portland. But they just let him get back in the games. And as for Clyde, I believe he tries to do too much for Portland, and he takes wild shots and bad shots at times. But sometimes he makes up for it with his defense, as in Game 4 when the shot wasn't on. And at the end of the game, I believe he stole the ball from Michael like 2 or 3 times, and Portland went up by like 6 or 8 and eventually won the game. But I believe Chicago will win it in 6.
In 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for calling.
Okay, thanks.
Going back to that, Adelman, he had a peculiar response to something similar to that. He said, well, if the games are 42 minutes, yeah, the Bulls would have swept it. It would be over. But the game is 48 minutes. Where I really agree with him is that in Game 2 in Chicago Stadium, Drexler was out of the game. He had fouled out, and that's their best player. And they got several good players, but Drexler is their best player. And Danny Ainge came in and really did what a veteran's supposed to do. He made 2 crucial plays at the end of Game 2 with a driving layup, and then also the next time down the floor after Chicago missed, he set up Kersey on a great pass that led to a layup. So it's true, it could have been a sweep, but it's not.
But it's a battle now.
I mean, Portland came through and made some good plays down the stretch, and that's why they're the Western Conference champions. That's a good team.
Well, I think it was more a fact that Pippen got in foul trouble, and it overworked Jordan for the last game, Game 4, and he just wasn't able to work his magic. He was just too tired, is I think the problem.
Okay.
It could have been. That's a tough club out there in Portland, though.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens tonight. They play. But now let's turn our attention to the World Heavyweight Championship. The next fight will be this Friday, and we have Holyfield versus Holmes. What do you think?
Well, I can tell you what I think right now. When I think of this match, I think of hard cash, and I'm talking about millions and millions of dollars. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. First of all, I guess boxing's got to do something to get a match going on. In my personal opinion, the heavyweight champion, who I think is the best boxer, is in the Marion County jail cell right now. Holyfield, Holyfield, we can be proud of him. He's a local guy, and he's a good boxer. He lacks that powerful punch, something that a guy like Ernie Shavers had, or even a guy like Foreman. I would just love to see him be able to have some type of power and really come up there and flatten someone and just end it right there. He's an excellent boxer, and I think this will go the distance. Somehow, if Larry Holmes wins this, I don't think he's got that much of a chance. He's an old guy.
I definitely don't think this fight's going to go the distance. I see, by the 8th round, I see it over with, and I see Holyfield winning this with a TKO in the 8th.
Well, there's going to be a heat factor, Jim. There ain't no question about that. I mean, it's going to be 100 degrees out there, so you could easily be right.
Well, how does Holmes compare to Foreman?
Well, Holmes and Foreman, those are, well, they're two guys making comebacks. Foreman, that guy, he is, even in his prime, he was a hard hitter. I mean, Foreman could end it with one swing easily. I don't think Holmes was that type of a boxer. When he first got his most significant win in his career over Ken Norton, he really didn't display any a big power punch or knock him out or anything. He just battered him up pretty good and just won basically on points.
I think the main difference between Foreman and Holmes is heart. I think Foreman just has a lot of heart, and that I'm just not convinced Holmes has that heart. I think he's more financially driven, and Foreman is a guy who's just got it all right up here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll find out next Friday night. On to Braves. We're hot, and the fans are just in love with this. It seems like we have a new attitude.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Bobby Cox is he's either going to be a GOAT or a genius. He bringing Stanton in against Cal Daniels. Cal Daniels hits that big 8th inning home run that beats the Braves for their only loss on the road trip, and then the next night he just goes back to him. It's I was sitting there just chewing my nails the whole time he was in there. He gets guys on first and second, and then strikes Daniels out. And then he strikes Brett Butler out with just a fantastic curveball. It was pretty impressive, I think. Bobby Cox this time proved to be a genius. And you can't complain with the results he's been getting lately out of his players.
Yeah, he's definitely a player's manager. Something that I've noticed, Melissa, you brought up a significant term, a new attitude. It seems that when Wallers came up, maybe a new attitude was created in this team. Earlier, when the Braves had just seemed to blow leads, maybe the Braves are going out there and feeling that it's just a matter of time before something goes wrong and the bullpen comes out and blows another game. And that probably may, well, I don't know if it may have had an effect on the pitching. It may have had an effect on the hitting. May have had an effect on the defense. But ever since the emergence of bringing up Wallers, it's like, hey, we may have another guy that we can go to. Maybe we can hang on and win some games. And significantly enough, they started getting more consistent starts, better clutch hitting, and they stopped making these terrible plays in the field like they made in Pittsburgh. They just stopped making these mistakes, and they are playing good baseball.
Yeah, the hitters are really, we've got 3 or 4 guys batting over 300. I think that's a tremendous factor in this win. Gantz came off to just such a hot start. Usually this time of the year he's on the upswing of about 230 or 240, working his way up to hit 260, 270. And the the pitching, we have been getting those quality starts. I see good things continue. By the All-Star break, I look to see us being right up there with, Cincinnati and San Diego, pretty close for the league.
At the All-Star break, I thought that we would be somewhere, maybe a few over 500, maybe 5 games over 500. I didn't think there would be that much of a difference. But you're right, talking about Ron Gant. This guy is traditionally, Jim, a slow starter, and he's been on fire for a while there. He was leading the National League in RBIs, and also Braves have just gotten a great performance out of Terry Pendleton, and those two guys have really done a great job in carrying this club, and they just get a few key contributions, pitching, someone saving a game, someone coming up and getting a clutch hit, and now everyone's favorite whipping boy, David Justice, is now coming out and has cracked a few home runs and has gotten a few big hits, including that Thursday afternoon win at Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of games there where he matched his career high with 4 RBIs. In the following game, he had 3 more, so that was probably doubled his RBIs for the year in 2 games.
Right.
What do you think about the Steve Azaski? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Nick Azaski.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that's a great story. Here's a guy that I thought personally he was washed up, and the Braves have gotten burned again. I mean, I was thinking Bruce Sutter all over again. They go and get this guy from St. Louis. And
from Boston,
No, I'm talking about Sutter. They go get this guy from St. Louis, and he's supposed to be the bullpen savior, and all of a sudden, a rotator cuff problem. He's out, and Ted loses millions. Then here we come with the Sasky, and basically it's no surprise. I mean, it's like when we get a free agent here in Atlanta, I'm sort of waiting for something to go wrong. It just seems like that always seems to happen. And here he is. He's had this vertigo disease. He's been out for 2 years. And it's really tough for a baseball player to make a comeback after being out of the game for so long. And here he is. He's batting, 320. He had, 3 home runs in his first 10 at-bats. Jim, this is impressive. And this could create some interesting options for the Braves if John Sherholtz elects to bring him up to the club.
Don't you think you're getting just a little bit too excited about him at this point?
I'm excited for him because he's made a great comeback. But if he keeps hitting the ball like this, let's remember this is a guy a couple of years ago in Boston that hit 30 home runs and knocked in 108 runs.
Yeah,
okay? If he can come up there and not even match those numbers, but still have the ability to hit 20 or 25 home runs and knock in 80 or 90 runs, that's a prospect or a player that a lot of people would like to have, including the Braves. And Jim, you mentioned earlier there's a log jam in the outfield, and now they're going to have a log jam at first base, and that's going to create some options.
Yeah, the thing I hate to see most, I hate seeing it looks like if Nick Azaski does get activated by the Braves, that probably Lonnie Smith is going to be the odd man out in this scenario. They'll probably keep Bream and Azaski at first base and have to shift Hunter into the 4th or 5th outfielder slot, and that's going to cause problems with Lonnie Smith. And he's been such a clutch player over the years. He really has. It's kind of sad, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you in that instance. I think Smith would be the man to go. He's about 40 years old.
Okay, well, we have a phone call. Hi, caller, you're on the air. What's your question? Caller? Hello?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, Jim, I don't know. We love, when we're off the air and we're talking, we love to speculate with trades. And you've always mentioned that you'd love to see a second baseman or a shortstop come around. And with all this talent that the Braves have in the outfield, and with all these players that they might have at first base, I think it'd be a little fun to speculate. I don't know who they could exactly go after. A player that you previously mentioned was Barry Larkin. I would love to see him get a player like Alomar from Toronto, but I mean, they're not going to get rid of him. He's batting .340, and he's a hometown favorite. So I don't see anything like that.
Expensive trade.
Right, but I would just like to see them somehow do some things like you had mentioned before, and maybe shoring up some of the offensive productivity in those positions at second and short, because when it comes to the bottom of that lineup, it just seems that the Braves just don't get that much production or any runs.
Well, we'll see what happens. Now we're going to go on to our tape. We have Steve Markos, who is interviewing the tournament director at the Softball Country Club and also one of the umpires there.
Sir Steve Markos with the press box. We're out here at the Softball Country Club talking to umpire Brad Snowden. Brad, how's it going tonight?
Oh, it's pretty good.
So you've been out here. This is tournament day, right, out here today on Saturday?
Yes, it is.
And I see that you've been, how many games you umpired today?
I did 10 games.
Is it kind of tiring?
It gets to be, but you catch your second win after about 7 games.
How often can you umpire out here? Can you make a good, decent living out of it, like umpiring during the week also, as well as during tournaments?
Well, today I made about $120 for the day, and then for the week I might make, a good week I might make $200.
What do you have to do to actually qualify to umpire out here at the country club?
You have to go through a month of umpire training, and then you do about a month of on-field experience. If they think you're good enough, they keep you.
Now, is that just for the country club, or does that qualify for everywhere where you could get a training out here and then go umpire some other place?
It's pretty much for the country club, but there's other booking agents that come around, and if they like you, then they'll ask you to come call at their parks too.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever do any other games, or just out here at the country club?
Sometimes I go other places if there's no work, or a big tournament somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. And then how often do you work during the week as far as games?
I might do 4 nights a week.
4 nights? Can you do more? I mean, is there ever when you want to do more and they say, no, we don't have it, or can you say, I want to do it every night, and they're going to get you on there every night?
There's been some weeks where I've worked all 7 days.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Any tough calls here in the tournament where you got booed or something like that today?
One call today. One guy's wife didn't like it because I called her husband out.
She gave you a bunch of crap, huh?
All the wives give you worse.
They're the worst ones.
They're worse than the players.
All right. All right, well, thanks for talking with us, Brad, and good luck here on the...
Can I get one of the shirts?
I don't know. All right, we finally got Frank Jernigan down here. Frank, I guess it's been a little hectic here.
Yes, it has.
What tournament is actually going on here today?
We have the NSA Gatorade Dudley Thunder Heat Classic today.
All right, and you are the tournament director, correct?
Correct.
And that's all you pretty much do here at the country club?
I run the leagues, too, also.
Oh, you're league director as well?
League director and tournament director.
And is there a tournament out here every weekend?
Every single weekend. We run USSSA and NSA tournaments every weekend.
What about ISA, where they used to steal? Do they have that anymore? Is it died
We're not
out?
doing that this year.
They're not doing that this year. Now, I know in the past, y'all started out here at ASA and then went to USSSA, had a falling out with USSSA, and now they're back. Exactly how did that situation come back where USSSA is now back? In fact, y'all had the Flag City Shootout, which is the major tournament.
Well, we went under new ownership.
New ownership?
They had no problem with it then. It was the old owners they had the problem with. The new owners, they looked at the number of teams and said no problem, put it back in.
All right, and then the Flag City, how many did y'all draw out here for that?
128.
128. And was the Flag City played in other places? I know the C was down in Macon or something.
Yeah,
was it just the D here?
Just the D was here.
Just the D.
They played down in Macon and Montezuma and all around down there, all the other classes.
So put on one of these tournaments like this, are they all, besides the league fees, what other kinds of revenue do you get? Are these Gatorade? Are they also paying something to sponsors or something like that?
Sometimes they'll supply us with prizes. Sometimes they'll buy the trophies. That's pretty much all the...
They never give any, like a fee or a sponsorship fee or anything like that? How much does it cost to get in a tournament here at the country club?
Between 125 and 150, depending on which one it is. The states and the regionals and divisionals, anywhere from 150 to 200.
And
but your standard qualifiers are 125, 135.
Do the teams have to supply their own balls?
Most of them they do, unless it's an NIT, which is an invitational, and they supply the balls for that, and they charge an extra 15 or 20 bucks per team.
All right. And what state tournaments or the North Georgia, what different classes are going to be out here this summer?
North Georgia and the Georgia D and C and NSA and B. We'll have USSSA North Georgia D, and we'll have church divisionals down here, and we have the women's, one of the women's state tournaments for NSA and USSSA. And we got the world tournament for NSA in Class C, regionals in D for NSA. So there's a few others. I can't remember them all now.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for taking some time here, your busy time. I guess it's just about time to hand out the trophies here. This tournament's wrapping up.
Now.
All right, well, thanks a lot for coming by, Frank.
You did such a good job.
Go, Trout! Go, Trout! Go, Trout! Go!
Okay, we're back, and that was Steve Markos interviewing the tournament director at the Softball Country Club and one of the club umpires. And we're here with Ted Wilkes, who is the director of the Softball Country Club. Hi, Ted.
Good evening.
Hi. On the tape, there was a lot of abbreviations. ASA, what do all those abbreviations mean?
Those are the various associations that we work with when we have softball. The four that they mentioned, the ISA, which is Independent Softball Association. They're kind of the new kids on the block. Then there's the oldest association, which is ASA, Amateur Softball Association. Then the two larger tournament organizations are the USSSA, which is United States Slow Pitch Softball Association, and the National Softball Association. Those two are probably in the state of Georgia the largest tournament associations that we work with.
Well, what exactly are the difference between league play and tournament play?
Well, tournament teams are really, those are the guys that, it's like yourself. You take the sport to heart. You live and breathe, every moment of the game. Whereas the league teams, those are really recreational teams. The guys who in the office all get together and they just put together a team and they just want to go play some softball. In the private softball complex business, which we are in at Softball Country Club, our bread and butter, of course, is league teams. And we used to brag on having some of the worst softball players in the country. We have people that couldn't hit water falling out of a rowboat. I mean, these people are horrible. But they have more fun than the competitive guys. The tournament teams, like I said, are very interesting to watch, but there's very few of them, and they couldn't support a private complex. So it's the recreational teams that really make our business possible and necessary.
Okay, Ted. So you already mentioned that this is a private complex. Could you just give us an overview or a history of the Softball Country Club?
Well, the Softball Country Club, of course, was an extension of a project that started in Houston, Softball Country Club Houston. Had an operation down there that caught the eye of several people here in Atlanta, Harlan Regal and David Hubbard, who were part of the Metro Atlanta Softball Association here. Went down there and got Mr. Lowell Douglas and his partners to come up here and look at developing the Softball Country Club. But being from Texas, they're not used to seeing a lot of hills and stone and rock, and so they brought the same people who developed the Houston project up here to Georgia. And somebody might have considered looking at some surveys, and their biggest problem is they ran into some construction problems, which they never really overcame because they ran over budget, and it basically led into them liquidating, and the project Softball Country Club was acquired by a group out of Houston, American National Insurance Company, and they basically have taken the project from where it was and put a tremendous amount of money and improvements into the project to make it as nice and successful as it is now. Many people who've been out there saw the rise and fall of it. We've had some good times and some difficult times as well, because when you go to build a softball complex on the side of a mountain, that is a tough task as it is. But the Softball Country Club owners now, American National, came in and put in all new fields, all new fences, and it's a beautiful facility now.
Well, you're talking about the construction. Exactly how big is the complex?
Well, we're looking at 47.5 acres of softball complex.
Wow.
And we have everything from softball to flag football, sand court volleyball, and of course our main activity is softball, slow pitch, fast pitch, modified, basically an adult program.
How many fields?
We have 9 fields. We have 4 volleyball fields and 1 multi-purpose field.
You talked about all the investments that you made in the fields. When this complex started back in the mid-'80s, Ted, I mean, it really looked rough out there. You're right, and I remember playing out there, and simple little ground ball in the outfield, I could all of a sudden just pop right over your head, and it made Atlanta Fulton County Stadium look like the smoothest area to play. And now you go out there and you look around, and the fields look just hundreds of times better. They're in great shape.
Well, one of the things that when you come in to build a complex, as I said, on the side of a mountain for all practical purposes, they had to basically take the top of the mountain and put it down and level the whole project. And you're going to get a lot of stone and things. And when they ran into the construction overruns, they could not really finish the project. And that's why you went out there the first night and maybe played on hay and some of the rocks and things that you saw. And American National, they came in 1990 and foreclosed on the property, acquired it, and had to decide what they were going to do to it. We put together a prospectus to show them what they could do with the project if they put a little money and investment back in. There was a tremendous amount of deferred maintenance that had to take place, and they came in and we re-leveled all the fields. We put down some of the prettiest Tifway Bermuda turf you could ever hope to play on, and it's a showcase, and it's everything that a softball country club if you envision what, you say the word softball country club, it is now exactly that.
Ted, the last 5 or 10 years, has softball been really picking up, or would you say it's leveled off, or is it declining? What's been happening with slow pitch softball in the last 5 or 10 years?
Well, slow pitch softball actually is the growth of softball. Many of us who started back when dinosaurs roamed the earth playing softball, it was fast pitch, everything was. But the slow pitch game, because it's easier to play, and you don't have to have that fast pitcher coming in and well already trained to do this. The slow pitch game is easier, and that's what took off because it's a fun game. A group of people can get together and play it. And for instance, when they first built Softball Country Club, there were around 4,800 teams in Metro Atlanta, organized teams, and now there's closer to 6,500 teams in the greater metro area playing softball.
Talk about all these different teams and leagues. How about, are there leagues for girls, and do they have co-ed leagues at the country club?
Well, we offer a very diverse program at Softball Country Club. We have slow pitch for, as I said, for men, and we have modified and fast pitch. We also have co-ed in various stages. We also have women's. We pride ourselves on having probably the most diverse organization in the state because not only do we run leagues, we do private parties, we do company picnics. If your group wants to challenge another group in the middle of the day and come out, we cater your party. We have a softball game, and we offer, like I said, a complete package A to Z. We can do a turnkey project for you and spend the whole day playing softball. And like I said, we have a complete restaurant and everything to cater your event.
Are there any other private clubs here in Atlanta?
There is actually one in already completed construction in southwest Metro Atlanta, and it is opened this past year. And from what I understand, there's another one in construction down off of Cleveland Avenue. But again, we're in our 8th year, and it is nothing but continuing to grow.
Right, right. Well, we see that evidence from the beautiful fields.
Well, and if we just get, matter of fact, I had to rush over here, as you know. We are having a record year ourselves. We had, I just came back from booking 352 umpire assignments for this weekend, and of course, we're hoping the weather will hold off.
Well, what rules do they play with under at Softball Country Club now?
Well, we don't really cater to any one association because our league rules are basically Softball Country Club rules, and they cater to the leagues themselves. We have some rules that come from the ASA, some from ISA, some from USSSA, some from NSA. So basically, we have an advisory board that sets the rules for the league play. Okay.
One last quick question. Why play at a private park instead of a public one?
Well, that's the biggest question we have. Why should we go out and play at Softball Country Club where we can go out and play at a county park and we get 4 or 5 more ball games and we'll pay maybe money. $50, $60 less? It all goes to what you are looking for. We completely cater to every need you have. We have dressing rooms and restrooms. We have complete restaurant. We have sports bar. If you come there from work, you can have a cold beer and a meal and then play your softball game.
Great.
It's just about everything you can need to play softball.
Okay, well, I would like to thank you, Ted, very much for coming.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, and thank Ty and Jim also. Well, next week we have Jerry Green to come and talk about amateur race car driving. And I'd like to also thank Atlanta Voice and Palatial Sporting Goods for sponsoring us. And tune us in next Friday at 8:30. We'll see you then. Thanks a lot.